Hello everyone, this is Jess Spalding, the Senior Implementation Specialist here at Smart Service, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about the latest feature updates for Smart Service and iFleet in version 108. With version 108, we're excited to bring you a long requested feature for Smart Service and iFleet, and that is the ability to add jobs from the field. Along with this update, we've also included several smaller fixes for some of the items that have been reported by our customers over the last few months, as well as some of the things that you guys have been requesting that aren't as large in scope as, adding jobs from the field. Before I get into our settings changes for the version 108 update, I would like to give our developers a quick shout out. Without them, we wouldn't have this update, and they've done a really great job in getting this update going and adding the features in that our customers have really been looking for a while here on this one. So just want to give them a quick thank you, let them know that we do appreciate this kind of stuff, and it is going to improve the lives of all of our customers out there that need this type of functionality. With that kind of out of the way, I would like to take you into settings first. There are going to be some employee permissions that we can adjust here, as well as a quick note on the default settings for Smart Service before we dive into the real functionality of this. So we'll go into our settings section first, under the employees, and then we're going to go into an employee profile here by clicking Edit. So inside of each employee record now, we have this allow user to add functionality. So if you check this box off underneath of that, that gives that user the ability to create these records from iFleet. So Smart Service still has all of its same permissions over here. Nothing changed with those on how this operates. But this new functionality on the right-hand side of the screen is going to give those iFleet users some functionality from the field that's really going to improve your guys' workflow. So gone are the days that you have to use, just a PDF and then have the office kind of backfill information for you. If you give the iFleet user this permission, they can actually go in and create that customer that they're talking to over the weekend when we get an emergency service call. They can add in a sub-location if they needed to. So maybe this customer has other buildings that they service, so we can get in here and add those records in for them. And then we can add that job in as well. Once we do that, it's going to let us go in and add in our notes, take pictures, enter timestamps. Everything that you guys need from the iFleet application is going to be available with this new functionality. But aside from the iFleet user permissions, we've also got some settings changes in our default section that we want to keep an eye out for as well. So let's go ahead and save my user and go to our defaults for a moment. Now, in the defaults, the only thing that I want to touch on in here is just something that you guys already are using. It is your auto naming functionality. So with the auto naming functionality, this is going to give you the ability to kind of have customized unique names for QuickBooks. So with iFleet, now in play on this side, we actually need this to be set up in the way that you want it for them out in the field as well. So you can leave it set to your current options, which will be what we have here in this drop down. So the customer's name and followed by the current date, or one of the job number options, which you can choose whichever one you'd like there, or you can actually backspace this, leave it blank, and let them type in a custom name. Now, whatever you change here is also going to change it for the office. So this isn't just for the iFleet users, it is something that will adjust things for the office level as well. If you guys like your current naming condition, go ahead and leave it the way that it is, and iFleet will continue to do the same thing for you. Now, with the Office section of Smart Service, there is a new piece in here that you guys will be able to utilize. If we go in there, down here towards the bottom in the Review and Post section, you're going to have this new Jobs to be added to QuickBooks option here in your Review and Post. So when an iFleet user sends back a job to you, you're going to be able to go into this area, and once we get in here, we can see we've got a very similar screen to our post work orders, our batch invoicing screen. So you have all of your normal filtering functionality there at the top. We've also got a breakdown of what's been added from the field here for us. So we'll get into the filtering options here in a second, but you can see here I've got a customer and a job. So one of these was not in the system, so I had to add these from the field. So my technician added in Larry Dell. He added in that address for us. He also added in the job for us there to do a repair, and we can see it's got my scheduled date and scheduled time and when I actually finished this and how much it was worth. So we're going to see that kind of information coming back from iFleet into this little review screen. Now, in order for this functionality to work, we've set it up essentially to work where they are sending information back to your smart service, and then from there, you're going to have a chance to review it, make sure things are accurate. You don't want to send a customer over to QuickBooks that's got a bunch of misspellings in their name or their address. So this is going to give you the ability to get in here and make sure things look right before we do our processing and make these a permanent record inside of QuickBooks. Let's take a look at what we have up here for our filters. So if we go up to the record type there, you're going to have your all records, so look at everything in the list. You can also filter down to individual record levels as well. So if I do, let's say, customer here, we can see it drops that job out of my list for me. And then you've also got the ability to filter by employee here. Now, only one thing has been added in so far here for us in this particular database, but you would be able to go in and filter by individual users. And you can also filter by a specific date range, or just look at everything that's been added in here that's kind of still waiting to be pushed over to QuickBooks. Now, you do have the ability with the date range there to set up your custom date range as well. So if you wanted to look at something that's a little bit outside of what we give you there, you can do that. And then we've also got our job types, so I can go in here and I can filter down to those if I needed to. Maybe there's only certain things that I'm going to deal with as the office user. Somebody else deals with like big installs or something like that. So we can go ahead and filter into what we need to look for here. And then we can also look for things based on that date completed or the date that thing was scheduled. So date completed is going to let us look for what the technicians actually finished. Maybe they just had the call come in and they were just adding it into the system for us. So they haven't gone out and done the work yet. We're going to have to send somebody else out there. They couldn't do it last night because they were already on a big job. So this is going to give you the ability to go in here and filter by what they just put in for you and what they actually did out in the field. As we get down to the options in the list here, you can click on the name and that will actually open the record for you. Once we get in here, you'll notice down at the bottom that you do have that Add Customer to QuickBooks option there. So before we hit this button, there are going to be things that we want to make sure we change and update. One of those is going to be something that you typically aren't able to adjust at the customer location or job level in Smart Service, and that's going to be the customer's name. After this record is created in QuickBooks, QuickBooks takes this process over for us. We're not allowed to change that based on what they give us the options for in their SDK or their communication between our two programs. So with this, I can go in and I can fix misspellings if I needed to. Maybe this person's name was Larry Dahl instead of Dell. So I can fix that, go down through here, make whatever other adjustments I need to make sure that this record is updated for us. Just go ahead and fix all of these things up. And then I would do another, once through here just to make sure everything looks good. I don't have a class or an account or anything, so I want to make sure that this stuff all gets filled out. Larry's not a church there, he's a residential customer. We want to make sure we get some payment terms in there. So you basically go through, fill out what you need. Once we've got our payment terms in here though, we might want to actually push all these changes over into other records. So if we notice there were misspellings or we were missing information, we can also get this to update our records for that job as well without having to go all through that job to make all these little minor changes that we've already made. So we can use our copy data, select the things that we want to update here. I'm just going to select everything, and then we can go in and we can update these records. So we'll go ahead and hit next, complete. And now that other job record has been updated for us. So I'm going to go ahead and save and close my customer. And we'll do a quick refresh here. We can see all the details have updated. So my spelling is now correct across the board. So what I can do now is I can open up this particular job. And I can pass through the record, reviewing the things that we have in here that we need to be able to make sure are accurate before we do our push to QuickBooks, if this job has been set up properly here. Because once that push to QuickBooks happens, again, that's kind of making it a permanent record. Right now we can see we don't have the option to complete this job. You lose that functionality until this record is actually pushed to QuickBooks. So we got to do those steps before we can actually do our processing here. But with this job coming back from the iFleet device, you're going to notice that they filled in all the information that they could at that time. So you can kind of pass through the record and see what we've got there. Now, as I go through this, I'm going to actually show you a couple of the features that we have that we've added in on top of this new feature for adding jobs from iFleet. So when they've added these jobs in from iFleet, we're going to go in here into the instructions in additional contacts. We can actually see that there's been a kind of a layout change here for you at the office. So we've got our standard job notes, job instructions. These were those public notes that we used to use for scope of work and things like that. And then we've also got our option down here towards the bottom, the iFleet private notes. So this is another highly requested item that customers have wanted over the past couple of years here, so we've got it in here now for us. This is going to give the iFleet users a private place to put in notes. Maybe these are notes that we don't want to mix in with our private customer level notes, which a lot of times are going to be more for like the billing side of things. So this gives them their own little section here to add that sort of thing in. But outside of that, nothing else has really changed here. Your job items will work the same way. When this information comes back from iFleet, we can see that it pulls in that scheduled date and the user that we set up from the field. If there were any photos taken or anything of that nature, those would go into the correspondence section like normal. So you have all your basic functionality still in place, just the added benefit of being able to create these from the iFleet device now. But we'll go ahead and save and close this. We've made our changes there. We'll go ahead and do our refresh just to make sure that the screen's up to date. And then at this point, if everything was good to go here, you would basically be able to go ahead and hit your add to QuickBooks. Now, there are situations where a technician might not realize that a person's in the list already. They looked up the wrong name, they looked up the wrong thing out in iFleet. So there is one additional function in here that we can take a look at, and it's the little binocular tool here. So this would let you move this job to a different customer location. So when we open this up, it gives us our standard search functionality. So I can go in here and I can start searching. Maybe this belongs to Amy Butler, and then I can just go ahead and move that job over. Now we'll want to make sure that we adjust all the details there and everything after we do something like this, but if they accidentally put this under the wrong person or they misspelled it when they typed it in, they'd be able to go in here from the office level and fix that sort of thing. So you do have that little binocular tool to reparent that record. But if everything looked good there, you can go down through your list and add those records to QuickBooks. So we'll go ahead and do both of those things. And now over in QuickBooks, if I go to my customer list, I can now see Larry over here. Now, I don't have an invoice or anything like that just yet, so you'd still need to go through your posting process for that job. At that stage, you were just creating the records in QuickBooks so that you could do your posting process. Now, if that job needs to be rescheduled in some capacity, passed over to a different person, you'll handle that just like you would with any other job, reschedule it as needed. Now that we're out here in iFleet, just as a quick note, this is going to be an Apple iPad that I'm working off of. If you're using an Android device, the menu button that we're going to go into here in the top right-hand corner of my screen is going to be in the top left-hand corner for you. If you're using a cell phone, the menu options should still be in the same spots. Your screen will just be a little bit smaller, so you might need to kind of adjust your view there. If you turn your device horizontally, it'll reorient and then you'll be able to see it closer to what we would see here on a tablet. But with the new functionality turned on for my user, I have my new job function button here, so I can go ahead and tap on that. That's going to bring up my list of customers, wherein I can go for a search. So if I don't know if the customer's in here, I can go ahead and search for them. I can scroll in here and find whatever I might need out of the list. I can also use the little plus buttons there along the side. So if I hit plus for Lisa Aberdeen, that's going to let me go in and create a new location. If I go to, let's say, Joe Archer down here, and I tapped on Joe Archer's name, not the plus, that's going to take me in to create the new job. If I tap up in the top right-hand corner, I can add a new customer in here as well. That's going to let us go through and fill in the relevant details here. So before I start filling this in, I'm going to go over what we have here. So you've got your standard customer name field. You'll have your taxability options, first and last name fields, phone numbers, emails, service addresses, and billing addresses available in here. So there is quite a bit that they can fill out here for you. As we set these up from the field, it's important to note that, maybe you don't have access to all this information, so you'll want to fill in what you have access to. The office is going to be able to reach back out and basically get the rest of the details there if something is missing. So from the technician perspective, fill in as much as you can when you're adding this stuff in, and then from the office perspective, you'll be able to add in whatever's missing here. But I'm going to go ahead and fill this in through the a little bit of movie magic here, so we'll get this filled out. Now that I've got this record filled out, we can see here I've got my customer's name, taxability statuses, their name there. How we want it broken down in our contact fields is how that first and last name works. Phone number, email, and my service address. Now, let's say the technician doesn't have a zip code, it's the middle of the night, they don't want to look that kind of thing up. They could leave that sort of thing blank. And note that I did not fill out my billing address here. So I wanted to show you this part. If you fill in one of the addresses, service or billing, you can go into your options button at the top, and then you can have it push that information around just like we would in Smart Service, where you have your up and down arrows between the addresses. So we want to move that service address to my billing address fields. So we'll go ahead and do that. Once we've filled in what we have here, we'll go ahead and submit it. It is going to create that customer in the list. So now if I go in here and I search for her, Sandy, we can see Sandy Bennett there. Now I can hit my plus button to add a location, which takes you through the same process that we had there. Rather than naming the customer, you're naming their location. But we'll go ahead and just add a job to Sandy. So we'll just tap on where we have her name here. That lets me go in, starts me off with selecting my job type. So what am I going out here to do? Service call. I can adjust the time frame here, so maybe the scheduled date needs to be for tomorrow, so I can go in there and I can say, okay, I'm scheduling it for tomorrow. I don't have time today, but I'll be back out. We can go in here, we can adjust the time that we want it to start at. So we want this to be my first scheduled appointment tomorrow, so we can set that. It's going to work off of your default value for durations there, so I've got it set up for an hour in my office level. But it comes through filling out the contact information, basic taxability information, service and billing addresses. So we'll have all the details that we would need in here. And then from here, what we'd do is we would hit our submit button. So once we submit this, it's going to basically send the information to the intermediary NT service. Then that is going to process it and add it at the Smart Service level. So once they do the add job functionality there, we're going to want them to hit our sync button here. When they sync, that job's going to pop up into their list again. So it basically has to go to Smart Service, be received there, and then it comes back. So after they create the job, synchronize, and then they'll have their job sitting there. So that job now functions just like any other job. We can go into it by tapping on it, and we can fill in our details here. So as we can see, everything looks the same for iFleet. Now, I do want to touch on something here where we have a new functionality that we've added in, and that is going to be that private notes section there. So if you remember, back at the office level, that little private notes area that we have under the customer has now been expanded upon. So you still have your customer private notes where you can keep like billing information and things of that nature. Well, we've also added in this iFleet private notes section here. So where I have job notes that are for like my scope of work, what I've done on the job, what I need to do on the job. Private notes are going to be used for, this customer's hard to deal with, get in and out, they've got a lot of dogs, don't send Sean, that kind of thing. So whatever we might want to kind of hide from that customer that's going to be relevant for our internal communication, we want to make sure that we have those in our private notes section here. But we can go in here, has the same functionality as usual, so existing notes, add new notes, so you can go in there and you can adjust these. You'll have your same timestamp functionality. So we can go in here and I can type in, so we can go ahead and add that in, hit our X, save that note. So that is in those private notes there. Now, if that's all I was doing at this point, I can hit my back button, I could do a sync. If this is an emergency service, you would go through your normal iFleet processes, put in some timestamps, take some photos, do whatever things you might need there. And that's going to get you that job filled in. So they can add new customers, locations, jobs. They can fill in all the relevant details that they might need from the field. All that information is going to send back to the office so that you guys can do your review of it and then process it and turn it into real records. Now that we're back in Smart Service, did want to show you what that job looks like as it comes back since we just entered that one through iFleet. So we'll go to our office first. And then we can see down here, review and post jobs. Again, that's going to be one of the new functions. once we get in here, we can see that we have a new customer and we have that new job. So again, we would go through our add to QuickBooks functionalities here to get these records to be created so that I can go out and do this job for tomorrow. But from here, I did want to show you a couple of other things like the functionality to send an alert out to iFleet. So we'll actually just piggyback off of Sandy here, open up this profile, and again, we can see here we're missing some of this information, so I'm going to go ahead and handle that. But if you're familiar with our alert functionality, this is going to be something that we've kind of added to. So you can go into alerts now, and you have your smart service alerts, and then you have your iFleet alerts. So let's go ahead and throw something in here. And then we'll go ahead and save that. So now, when I send this job out to my device again, so I'm just doing a quick resend here to get it out there. I'll save and close. And we'll take a look back over here at iFleet with that new alert on that job. So we're going to go find our Sandy Bennett job. We can see that we've got our little indicator there indicating that the job was resent to our device. We're going to open up that job. And then at the top there, we get our little alert. So we'll see those alerts there at the top. So the technician knows that there's something up with this job that they need to be aware of. The next thing that we want to maybe take a look at here is going to be one of the other minor functions that we've updated, and that is going to be the ability to add our job exceptions to our scheduling field. So inside of your settings area here, if you go to the scheduler settings, you'll have the option to customize what fields you want to have displayed on your calendar. So you do schedule fields and then use the drop down, and these are all just different fields that are inside of a job. But if we select job exception and we were to look at our calendar by going to the schedule, so let's save those settings by dashboard and then go to the scheduling board. And once we get over here, we can see that I have, for this Larry Dahl job, my job exception is sitting there right next to the job name. So for this particular job, I couldn't collect a payment, so I sent that back to the office as an exception, and that shows up right here on the schedule when I'm looking at my color by timestamp functionality or any of the other coloring functionalities, so that you know that there was some kind of flag sent back from your iFleet users. That wraps us up for the Smart Service version 108 overview. If you'd like to get your team on the latest version, please reach out to the help desk by phone at 888-518-0818, by email at support@myservicedepot.com, or by using the support request button found in your help menu in Smart Service. That being said, I'd like to thank you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next release spotlight.